Hi guys! In this video, I want to share a little bit about how I managed to move some of my assets out from Trinidad and Tobago and move them over to the UK. For those of you who don't know, Trinidad and Tobago, since around 2016, has basically been in the throes of a currency shortage, foreign currency shortage. It's basically been near impossible for a lot of people to secure US dollars or pounds or basically any foreign currency. There have been great waiting lines. Coupled that with the speculation that there's a possible devaluation of the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, there's just added pressure for people to transfer their money into some kind of foreign exchange. There's also great demand on the import side because Trinidad and Tobago is basically an import economy. So a lot of these importers and the other people, they're high demand for foreign currency, and that's just perpetuated the problem even worse. Now, when I first came out here in October of 2016, the situation was not as bad as it is now. I managed to put in my request for a sum of money. I had to wait, I think, about 3 or 4 weeks, and they called me up and basically they were able to provide me with the money that I needed in that space of time. Now, since then, it's gotten a lot worse, and as such, I've had to find different ways to move my money. Now, a lot of people have resorted to using credit cards and debit cards at international cash machines. So they would actually go abroad and they will go to ATMs and so forth, and they will withdraw the equivalent of US currency that they need. And that could work for pretty much small amounts. As I say, most of those machines are limited to maybe, 1,000 US or maybe 250,000, 250, 100 US dollars and stuff like that. Out here, it's a little different. The machines are kind of capped at 250 pounds per day. I mean, you could get a little more if you request it or if you order it and stuff like that. But it is quite a tricky procedure, especially if you're dealing with bigger amounts. But this brought me back to something that I remembered many years ago when I went out to Thailand. Before I made that trip out, I actually went to my local branch in Trinidad and Tobago, and I requested Thai baht, the currency of Thailand. And I basically got it at about, let's say, $32 US, 32 baht to the equivalent of $1 US in Trinidad and Tobago. But when I went out to Thailand and I actually tried to get more baht while I was out there, the exchange rate was nearly double. I was actually getting twice as much money for my US currency. I was getting close to 64 baht for one US dollar. And later on, subsequently, I learned about, this is sometimes an international rule of finance where sometimes it actually makes more sense to raise your finance and currency in the country of which you're doing the development. And the reason for that is sometimes, not all countries, but some economies prefer to give you better exchange rates, especially if they're tourist driven, because they want more of their currency circulating in the economy to boost the GDP. So they'll actually give you better rates. So heavy tourist economies tend to give you better rates if you buy the currency in the country itself. A lot of international financiers know this. A lot of manufacturing companies, especially global enterprises, they seem to understand this. So I went about very simply, knowing that the UK is part of the Commonwealth. I found one of the very large banks out here that do in fact simply accept Trinidad and Tobago dollars, and they will do the conversion that they need. And for some reason, people don't seem to understand this. Back in Trinidad, we are very accustomed to getting foreign checks, either pounds, UK dollars, US dollars, whatever the case might be. Sometimes dividend checks that come from foreign companies. And we very kindly, we take that to the bank, deposit it into our Trinidad and Tobago account. We might have to wait up to 6 weeks for the transaction to clear. And then we receive our equivalent of funds in TT dollars. I simply just did the reverse. I went to my bank in Trinidad and Tobago and I secured a Trinidad and Tobago draft in TT dollars. And I came across to the UK and I went to my very large bank that has a lot of international connections. And not even any special department. I simply went up to the counter, the tellers that were right there, and I deposited my Trinidad and Tobago draft into my sterling account. And the process again took like 4 to 6 weeks for the entire transaction to clear. I was a little speculative as to what interest rate I was going to get, but nonetheless, the transaction went through like any other kind of transaction. And again, I don't know why. Again, Trinidad, they tend to have the idea that nobody will accept our currency internationally, but being part of the Commonwealth, we are actually legally entitled to have our money accepted in most places around the Commonwealth. And especially if you're dealing with one of the bigger banks. Now, I have a friend, he says he's done this in Canada as well, because Royal Bank of Canada, RBC, is in fact the Royal Bank of Canada. And they're not going to not accept a Trinidad and Tobago check from the very, same company in Canada just because it's issued in Trinidad and Tobago, right? So again, the thinking on this financial issues tends to be very myopic. They're very focused on Trinidad, not looking to the international markets, not looking to what is possible if you kind of expand your view on this. Now, of course, I had my Sterling account set up from before. So, of course, Trinidadians who may want to try this, they need to have those accounts in place before. Check with your bank to make sure that they're willing to accept foreign currency. Not all banks are willing to do it. But the banks that I deal with tend to be very heavily invested internationally, and as a result, they will accept the foreign currency. As I'll show you here, this is, I'm just picking one of the foreign banks right here. This is the exchange rate bank for Barclays. And as you see right here, they actually accept Trinidad and Tobago dollars they'll do conversions from TT dollars to euros, pounds, or to US dollars, and they list the exchange rate as of this day. But once again, it does take a little time for that to happen, but I've had no issues doing this. I've done it a couple of times now. In fact, I know a couple of people actually making this into kind of a business because of the black market in Trinidad, they could actually, make very good spreads when they transfer money back and stuff like that. So, I hope this was helpful to the people in Trinidad and Tobago who might be exploring options to get money offshore. As I said, just call your banks. I don't know anybody doing this in the US, but I'm sure it's possible in the US. I've heard it done in Canada. I know I've done it in the UK, and I'm sure it's possible elsewhere. Again, look for Commonwealth countries as well as banking facilities that tend to be international. So I hope that was helpful, guys. I know this isn't my usual stuff, but I mean, hopefully this will help out some people back in Trinidad, especially as some people are predicting a possible devaluation. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you like this video and you'd like to see more. Connect with me on social media if you have any more questions about these things. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.